President Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sat down and took questions. This, again, is just from moments ago. Here it is.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
Mr. President, any update on your talks with President Putin, and do you still trust them?
I'll let you know in about a month from now, okay?
President Trump, your message
to the...
Are you willing
to provide Ukraine with the security guarantees the same way as European allies
Well,
do?
that's later down the road. We'll be talking about that. Hopefully, we'll be in a position to talk about that a little bit later on. It's a little bit too early to answer.
Why
that
do you
question.
think Mr. Putin is not willing to meet with both of you?
President Trump, your message to President Orban, who is refusing to stop buying Russian oil.
Well, he's a friend of mine. I have not spoken to him, but I have a feeling if I did, he might stop, and I think I'll be doing that.
Thank you.
What progress do you think has been made on ending Russia's war against Ukraine since the last time you saw President Zelensky?
Well, the biggest progress is that the Russian economy is terrible right now. It's, as you know, it's crashing. And that, frankly, Ukraine is doing a very good job of stopping this very large army. It's pretty amazing. You know, this is a war that should have ended in 3 days, 4 days. People said it was going to be very quick, and you got to hand it to the Ukrainian soldiers and everybody involved. It's still going on, and that's not a good thing for Russia. This was supposed to be quick, and so, you know, Russia doesn't look very distinguished, having taken 3.5 years now, right? So
Yeah.
3.5 years of very hard fighting, and it looks like it's not going to end for a long time.
Mr. President, have you been briefed on the latest alleged drone incursion into Denmark? What do you think of that? And
Where are they?
Into Denmark, Copenhagen. Denmark is saying that there were some drones that shut down an airport, possibly Russian sabotage. What's your response to that? Will the U.S. have a material
Well, I
response
have
to that?
no response until I find out exactly what happened. I know about it, but they don't know what happened. But we're going to find out very soon.
Sir.
Would you back up NATO allies? You said that you thought that they should shoot down the Russian aircraft. Would you back them up? Would the United States help them out in some way?
Depends on the circumstance, but, you know, we're very strong toward NATO. NATO has stepped up. You know, when they went from 2% to 5%, that was great unity. Trillions of dollars is being pumped in, and they're paying us for the weapons that we send. But that was a big day. Nobody thought a thing like that could happen. You had countries that weren't paying 2%, and now they're all paying 5%. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of weapons they're buying, and they're buying them from us. They're buying them from the U.S. You know, in the old days, Biden gave them everything, gave them $350 billion worth of money and weapons. It's a lot of money and a lot of weapons, and we got really not much for it. We gave the money to Ukraine to fight, and they've proven they're very brave. I mean, look, they're fighting, and this is a war going on 3.5 years, and people thought it would be over quickly because Russia's a big military power, and Ukraine, I tell you, they are good fighters. Got to hand it to them. They have a lot of courage, a lot of guts. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, some really interesting news there. President Trump was asked if he thinks that NATO countries should shoot down Russian jets if they're in NATO airspace. Quote, "Yes, I do," he said. All the more newsworthy because this morning, Secretary of State Marco Rubio indicated the United States would not shoot down Russian jets that enter NATO airspace, but said the alliance would continue to intercept them. So just really interesting topic that has been discussed today, and that's the word from the president. He was asked, does he trust Vladimir Putin? He said, I'll know in a month from now. That's frequently punts a month, a couple weeks. And he was asked if he would pressure Viktor Orban to stop using Russian oil after he came down so hard on European countries for not reducing their reliance on Russian energy. Actually, a lot of them really have, but some countries in Europe that have not have close personal relationships with President Trump. And that was a very pointed question to point that out. I want to bring in former Defense Secretary under President Obama, Leon Panetta. Secretary, what did you think about what you heard there, specifically about the shooting down of Russian jets, considering we've seen some of these incursions here recently?
Well, you know, it's It's the way the president talks, and usually goes ahead and says, shoot him down without thinking about all of the consequences. I would prefer that the president would make clear to Zelensky and make clear to our NATO allies that what we really need to do is to form an air defense system over Ukraine and the other European countries that basically protects them from those kinds of incursions. I think that would be the right way to go. But obviously, at least hearing the president say what he said, the one thing I feel comfortable about is that he seems to be making clear that the United States is going to stand with Ukraine in its war against Russia. And that's an important point to make.
When he was talking about, has he seen progress on ending the war? He's pointing to the Russian economy. What did you think about that?
Well, the reality is the Russian economy is falling apart as a result of Russia's efforts to continue this war. Everybody knows that. And it makes a great deal of sense right now, very frankly, for the president to stand up and push for additional sanctions against Russia. This would be the appropriate time to do that because Russia is hurting with regards to its economy. The president recognizes that. To some extent, he may be bobbing and weaving in hope that the Russian economy will collapse without having to push him. But the reality is that it would be important right now for the president to do two things: to move forward with additional sanctions, to make clear that we're going to continue to put pressure on Putin to basically either agree to a ceasefire or negotiations. And secondly, I think it would be really important for the United States to provide the weapons necessary in order for Ukraine to be able to defend itself. We established an Iron Dome for Israel. It's effective over 90% in terms of knocking down drones and missiles. We ought to do the same thing for Ukraine right now and give them the kind of defense system that would stop these constant incursions by drones and missiles from Russia.